Today, Penn TV has just received some very incredible videotape showing a shootout between an Ohio highway patrolman, a Clinton County sheriff's deputy, and two fugitives. Eve Mueller just picked up the tape, and she is in the newsroom with more. Eve, I'm sure that they're hoping that this tape will lead them to the suspect.
Exactly, Andrea. This tape is unbelievable. The shooting caught on a camera mounted in a highway patrol cruiser. Now, it all started with a routine stop in Wilmington over the weekend. A highway patrolman pulls over a Chevie Suburban. When the driver doesn't produce some ID, the officer makes the driver get out. That's when the shooting begins. I'm just going to let the tape roll. It tells its own story. Stop what you're doing. You're going to want to take a look at this. I don't want this. Please. Now, I've seen that tape about 10 times today already, and it still gives me chills. Incredible video. The suspect fired several shots, hitting the cruiser and shattering the glass, but the officers were not hit. That's the good news. Andrea, I'll be sending it back to you for a phone number. If anybody has seen these people, the Highway Patrol wants to hear from them. At 6, I'll walk you through exactly what happened on that tape that you just saw.
It is absolutely amazing, Eve. Okay, thanks for sharing it. Now, if you do have any information on these two men, please call the State Highway Patrol. The number is 1-800-525-5555, 1-800-525-5555. We will repeat that number for you at the end of our newscast. And new tonight at 6, we will walk you through the events, again, that led up to this bizarre shootout. Dave?
Police dispatch tapes now reveal what happened tonight that OSU officer Mike Wilmington.
Tonight, a woman accused her to run a check, but when he informed the driver he'd have to search him, the man refused. For 5 minutes, the conversation goes on about whether the man would submit to a search. Meanwhile, a Clinton County sheriff's deputy arrived to assist. Then the man made his decision, and this is what happened next. I don't want this shit! Please! Obviously, absolutely amazing video. Shortly after the truck drove away, a Wilmington police officer spotted the Suburban in a parking lot. The driver then began shooting at him and injured a bystander. That bystander was treated and released at a Clinton County hospital. The gunman then fled on foot with the rifle. These men are obviously armed and dangerous. It's not known whether the passenger in that shootout was hit, but police, FBI, Ohio State Patrol, and ATF agents are looking for them tonight. They're still on the loose, Gail.
Monica, with such close-range shooting, it is amazing that no one died in that shootout. Thanks, Monica. Well, the Highway Patrol is asking for your help in identifying these men tonight. If you have any information, you can call the Highway Patrol tip line, 800-525-5555. And new at 6 tonight, you will hear the conversation that led up to that altercation.
For time of a shootout between Wilmington police and two suspects. The shooting happened Saturday, and police released these photos of the suspects. Now look carefully at the moving video. Police hope someone will see these pictures and be able to give them some new clues to help catch the suspects. If you have any new information you think may help police with their investigation, please call the Ohio State Patrol at the number you see on your screen. It's 513-382-2551. Again, that's 513-382-2551.
Well, we have a breaking story.
I don't want no shit! I don't want no shit! And of course, we will have the story behind these pictures tonight on Eyewitness News at 6. We'll walk you through the series of events that led up to the crash, coming up at 6.
Of Eyewitness News.
Thanks for joining us, everyone. Angela joins Dave for Eyewitness News at 6.
And coming up tonight, dramatic pictures caught on tape, a shootout. That story coming up at 6.
From Central Ohio's #1 source for news, This is 10 TV Eyewitness News.
Tonight on Eyewitness News, a routine traffic stop caught on videotape. But what followed was anything but routine. Please! Unbelievable. A camera mounted in a highway patrol cruiser captures that shootout on tape. And with that, we say good evening, everyone. I'm Dave Kaler.
And I'm Angela Pace. Tonight, Central Ohio is on the alert. Two fugitives that you saw in that video, they are still on the loose. Only one of the suspects is seen on tape clearly. Now, he is described as a white male. He's 19 years old with a goatee-type beard. Both suspects were last seen running from the shootout scene in Wilmington, and both are believed to be armed and dangerous. Tonight, police say the men may have ties to white supremacist groups, and they need your help in finding these two suspects. Reporter Eve Mueller shows us what led to the dramatic shootout. It started about 1:30 on Saturday afternoon. The highway patrol trooper stops the Chevie Suburban for a registration violation.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Is your driver's license, please, sir?
The two men inside say they have no ID. 2 minutes later, he asks the driver to follow him.
Let's sit back here with me a second, sir.
You can't see the men off camera, but the patrolman is trying to search the driver before putting him in the back of the patrol car. Here's the exchange 2.5 minutes into the stop.
Wait a minute. Any guns, knives, clubs, stuff like that on here, sir?
I don't want you going and searching through all my...
By now, the trooper has seen a Clinton County Sheriff's deputy and flags him over for backup. The suspect won't allow himself to be searched and doesn't want to be arrested for not having identification. 7.5 minutes after the initial stop, watch this incredible exchange. The suspect runs back to the car, with the deputy and trooper struggling to keep him from getting away. But quick, look at the passenger. He fires from inside. The Clinton County Sheriff's deputy comes around back.
Please!
The highway patrol trooper tries to stop the driver from getting away. Now, it is unbelievable. The trooper and the deputy were not hit. And the passenger side suspect, he may have been. We don't know for sure. Again, these two suspects may be linked to a white supremacist group. Now, I'm live tonight here at the Ohio Highway Patrol Command Center for Columbus. This is where your phone calls are coming in, your tips about this case. And authorities certainly want to hear from you if you know who these men are that we just showed you on videotape, and if you know where they are. They're very anxious to speak with you. Take a look at your screen. Here's the number, 1-800-525-5555. Again, two white males, one has a goatee. Again, Angela, Highway Patrol released this tape so you can help at home to solve this case. Incredible video. Thank you very much. Eve Mueller reporting live. Now, the names of the trooper and the deputy are not being released because they are witnesses, and authorities think that they could be in danger. Police are also checking to see if the two suspects are wanted in the state of Arkansas.
For the first time since a police officer was killed,
In identifying these men, if you have any information, call the Highway Patrol tip line, that number 800-525-5555. For the first time since...
Wanted for questioning 24-year-old Chevie Kehoe and 39-year-old Myron Jacob Settles. They say they never heard of them. Instead, this is their message.
True terrorists, the Federal Bureau of Investigation or the Federal Bureau of Intimidation, along with the BATF, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, are in your county. Be aware there is grave danger in your county as long as these people are present. They have a history of butchering innocent American citizens.
The Aryan Nations just held this rally in Columbus on Sunday. They say the Anti-Defamation League is stirring up the connection. A Washington state mother tells News Center 7 her daughter is with Myron Jacob Settles, and he is a member of the Aryan Nations. Police at this point say any involvement with the group is still being investigated.
Well, according to the Washington State woman, both men are very dangerous. She hopes her daughter is okay and will call home soon. This is Tony Berlin live in the newsroom for News Center 7. Now, investigators in Greene County.
Dramatic shootout caught on police videotape serves as a grim reminder of how dangerous two suspects are, and both men are still on the loose. And that is where we begin today. Good morning, and thanks for joining us. I'm Greg McKinney.
And I'm Lisa Cooney. It is our top story. A nationwide manhunt continues for two men police say are armed and dangerous. They were involved in a weekend shootout with police in Wilmington, Ohio on Route 73. It started after a routine traffic stop. And one look at this compelling video you're about to see shows you firsthand why it's so important to get these two men in custody.
I don't want to. I got nothing. Please.
Now, if you recognize the suspects or that blue Chevy Suburban which has Washington plates, you are asked to call the police. Here is the number. Area code 513-382-2551. It is the Ohio State Patrol, and investigators welcome any help you can give them.
After information about the weekend police shootout in Wilmington, there are indications that link the suspects to the white supremacy group, the Aryan Nations. But Aryan members here in the Miami Valley say there is no tie between their group and the two suspects. News Center 7's Sean Lay reports on their reaction.
Hey, gentlemen.
This is the videotape taken from a state patrolman's car Saturday afternoon. It's what's causing so much tension in the area tonight. Watch what happens.
I don't want to.
Tonight, the men are on the loose, but today, disturbing information came from a woman in Spokane, Washington. The woman claimed the men, identified as 24-year-old Chevie Kehoe and 39-year-old Jacob Settle, belong to the white supremacy group, the Aryan Nation. Police warn the men are extremely dangerous and may have explosives. But tonight, another twist in the case. Just 10 miles from Wilmington is this Ohio Aryan Nation headquarters, right in downtown New Vienna, Ohio. Its leader, Pastor Ray Redferrin, gave the media an inside look at its headquarters and denied his group is linked to the shootout.
I have no personal knowledge as to who these two guys were. There's no connection between them and the Aryan Nations of Ohio. I called our headquarters in Idaho and was assured that there's no connection between them and Idaho.
Sean Lay, News Center 7 Daybreak Edition. Group's headquarters are just about 10 miles from the location of Saturday's shooting. Ohio Aryans say police have not yet questioned them. A child playing with a light...
I don't want to go in and start to film it.
I don't want to. Please.
It's an incredible video, rather, and amazing. No one was hurt in this, but this fugitives, and both of them are still on the run. Matter of fact, one of them was caught clearly on tape. You see him right here. He has a goatee beard and is 19 years old. Now, both men are considered armed and dangerous. If you have any information, call 1-800-525-5555.
And, Tino, for the first time...
It's Wednesday morning. This weekend shootout in Wilmington caught on a police cruiser surveillance cameras. But do these cameras generally help or harm a police officer's case? That story's just ahead.
And we'll listen to the conversation between air traffic controllers and a commercial airliner after a close call with American fighter jets. These stories and more just ahead.
You're watching 12 WKRC-TV, a new generation of news. Good morning, Cincinnati. 12 News starts now.
Good morning, Cincinnati. It's 6 o'clock. I'm John Lomax.
And I'm Cammie Durkee, and today...
After the passenger will duck out of sight. The State Patrol thinks that's when he was loading his gun. Meanwhile, a Clinton County deputy arrives to back up the trooper. The driver runs back to his truck to avoid arrest, and the shootout begins.
I don't want this. Hey, fuck him. Go. I got nothing. I got nothing. Please.
Bob Hetherington, 6 News. Amazing stuff.
The driver's hands are up. He appears to be unarmed. The troopers turn their attention to the passenger, and then the driver gets away in the Suburban. Now, according to Ohio State troopers, the officers could not legally shoot the driver because the driver did not pose a deadly threat. Now, that tape is considered the most important tool in identifying the suspects because investigators now have pictures of the men involved.
Now, while the dashboard camera can produce strong evidence in court, some defense attorneys say it doesn't always work in the police's favor. 12 News reporter Gwen Ellis looks at how police cameras influence cases.
I ask you to wait right here.
Their first intent was to document average traffic stops. They did more than that. Like when this trooper was struck in 1991. They can show exactly what led up to a high-speed chase and what police did to catch a suspect. They can also show when an officer goes too far. In 1990, Mothers Against Drunk Driving gave away video cameras to Hamilton police to show the public just how drunk some drivers were. It was supposed to increase conviction rates, but some say the cameras actually worked against the police.
We had the opportunity to watch the tapes. We saw that the individuals were able to perform the field sobriety tests and that their answers to the officers were appropriate to the questions that they were asked. And the cases basically went away. And we found that it benefited us more than it hurt us.
If I could put a camera in every cruiser, I would do it.
But prosecutor Joe Dieter says videotape is more reliable than witnesses, and it helps to get to the truth faster.
I think the effect on police is the same as it would be on anyone when they know cameras there. They're going to act appropriately, and I think in the end it helps the police.
Still, the idea of the eye that never blinks isn't always popular with local police.
Cincinnati only has 2 video cameras. They're based in their traffic division. One sergeant says that's because the equipment and the storage of tapes is inconvenient. Plus, the city has a 98% DUI conviction rate based solely on the officer's observations and testing.
Whether the cameras help or hurt police, the rush to install them in all cruisers has died down. Gwen Ellis, 12 News.
Now, 12 News tried to find out how many cameras the Hamilton County Sheriff's School.
Late-breaking coverage you can count on. This is News Center 7 at noon.
Properly, and said this morning on the Today Show that while neither of the officers were hurt, one of the suspects may have been hit with gunfire.
The driver later had opened fire at a Wilmington police officer, and we don't think the driver was hit. There's a possibility that the passenger was hit, but we simply don't know. There was an intense manhunt, 6 to 8 hour manhunt after both the shootings, but evidently both of the individuals were able to get outside the perimeter before a perimeter was established.
Investigators hope someone...
Of Ohio's area nations say there are no links to the suspects in that weekend shootout involving lawmen in Wilmington. Local, state, and federal agents continue to search for the gunman. A woman in Washington State says she knows one of the suspects involved, and she says he's a member of the Aryan Nations. Again, the Ohio Aryan Nations group denies any involvement or any connection. Kettering Police
Denies the 2 suspects. Reporter John Greiner talked with Sergeant Bourne about the case.
But at this point, obviously we're happy with the end result, and that is that no one was killed. Whether or not the trooper acted within policies and procedures is something that we'll be looking at. We'll be looking at using that obviously as a training tool. And it's very easy for people to look at the video and say, I would have done this differently or I would have done that differently. But you have to realize in those situations we're trained to react and not to think. And so you're moving on adrenaline and reaction time.
Sergeant Bourne says also if you have any information on who the 2 men are, you can call your local police department immediately. Well, Sergeant Bourne says the trooper didn't shoot the fleeing driver because the driver had never shown a gun and had never represented a threat to the trooper's life. The 2 men are lucky to be...
Led the trooper near his automobile. A number of clues that were indicators that the trouble was on the way.
Well, fortunately, with all those bullets being fired, nobody was hurt. Thanks a lot, Jim Meade, director of the Ohio Law Enforcement Training Center. I'm sure a lot of police officers will be looking at this tape in days to come.
That's right.
The two men are still on the run. They're considered armed and dangerous. The driver was caught clearly on the tape. You'll notice he has a goatee there. If you have any information about this guy, call 1-800-525-5555.
Jerry, we may know something.
A routine traffic stop turns into a life-threatening gun battle. Meter-maid madness.
I'm Barry Nolan.
You think your job is tough? Try giving out parking tickets for a living. Our hidden camera caught parking police scuffling with scoundrels.
I have a BMW sitting here on the street. Leave the thing sitting here.
Recipes for revenge. I'm Diane Diamond. A disturbing report for restaurant diners. See what can happen if you don't treat your waiter with care. You could be treated to a topping that's not on the menu.
You go in the back and you spit on it.
Drew's Family Secrets.
I'm Jerry Penacoli.
The woman behind Drew Barrymore's jaded upbringing tells all about their mother-daughter relationship. Plus, why Mel Gibson got dogged at one college campus. And Carmen electrifies the Baywatch Beach.
Hi, I'm Terry Murphy.
And I'm Barry Nolan. You're watching Hard Copy for Wednesday, February 19th.
Talk about your lucky lawmen. A routine traffic stop turns into a wild shootout. Their brush with death was caught on tape. And Doug Bruckner has the explosive scene in tonight's Top Copy.
It started as a stop for expired plates in a college town northeast of Cincinnati. But what state troopers didn't know, the Suburban was a rolling arsenal. And you're about to see one of the fiercest shootouts ever captured on video. 22 seconds of hell on a cold Ohio highway. At first, the driver seems cooperative. But police say when they tried to search him off camera, the driver bolted back toward the vehicle, and then things explode out of control. The passenger escapes into a woods. The officers now try to at least stop the driver. With all the bullets flying, only one person gets a minor injury, but there's to be more shooting.
A short time later, a Wilmington police officer spotted that Chevy Suburban pulling into a parking lot. He pulled in behind the vehicle. The driver exited with a rifle, fired a number of rounds at the Wilmington police officer, and then also fled.
Police still haven't caught the Suburban driver or the passenger. As the manhunt continues, the Highway Patrol's reviewing this video. A patrol spokesman says the driver didn't appear at first to be armed, and agency policy forbids a trooper from shooting unless in a life-threatening situation.
Did the officer, specifically the trooper, act within our policy and procedure? That's something that we'll be taking a look at. But it's very easy for us to sit kind of in a 50-yard line in our nice warm homes or apartments and kind of second-guess those officers. Those officers are reacting based on training, and they have to work within certain parameters of what they are or not allowed to do.
Officers won't confirm media reports of a possible link between the incident and a white supremacist group.
Now from
On the tip line, but the search right now is still on. Nationwide manhunt is one of those cliches we hear a lot of times in high-profile cases. But in this case, News 5's Jeff Hirsch reports the cops are using audio, video, computers, even more.
This tape, which amazed Ohioans, has now gone nationwide.
How's the officer doing? Well, the officer's fine. Both officers are fine.
Ohio Highway Patrol spokesman John Bourne went on the morning news shows today hoping someone will recognize the suspects in the shooting. Investigators have some possible names, but nothing definite yet.
Well, we can't name any uncharged suspects in any of our investigations. If we felt confident we had names, we would already have arrest warrants. We hope to have arrest warrants as soon as we get concretely something linking a face with a name.
In an effort to get those names, the police are not only going on TV, they're also going high-tech. Take a look at this. This is not one of those old-fashioned wanted posters in the post office. This is a wanted poster on the Internet. Pictures from the video on the Ohio Highway Patrol's website. Investigators are also putting information on the nationwide police computer with potential suspect names and descriptions. Those suspects could be anywhere. One possible connection is a triple shooting in Arkansas. The suspects there are still at large. Another possible connection, a Spokane, Washington man who was arrested in South Dakota with some stolen weapons. But authorities in Arkansas, where the bodies were found at this site last year, are now downplaying any possible connection to the Wilmington suspects. And yet another report says the Suburban both fugitives were driving is owned by an Idaho man. But whatever, they're still fugitives. And authorities say if these guys are willing to fire at cops at broad daylight, they'd probably fire at anybody who gets in their way. Jeff Hirsch, Cincinnati's News 5.
If you have downhill from here.
I don't want to
Again, today's scene about a mile away and a half hour later proves the pleasantries are over. No time to answer officers' questions. This time the suspect was going to come out shooting.
Now, both of those videotapes were shot via mounted camera inside the police cruisers. Now, the latest on the search. The OSP says it's close, but officially they still haven't identified or issued arrest warrants for the bold bandits we've seen now on 2 tapes. Reporting live from News Center 7, Vanessa Tyler.
Vanessa, thank you. News Center 7 continues to uncover more about this shooting. Looking at the video, you can see that the officers just didn't have much time at all to react.
You fall back on training. There are certain things officers do, like back away from the situation, give yourself a distance, identify a target.
Coming up on News Center 7 at 6, a man who trains police officers for situations just like this talks about how they prepare. Plus, hear from another officer who found himself in the line of fire. Continuing coverage on News Center 7 at 6.
Police have many... We'll have more on the suspects on 12 News at 6. And at about 5:12, find out what young... Hi, I'm Terry Murphy.
And I'm Barry Nolan. You're watching Hard Copy for Wednesday, February 19th.
Talk about your lucky lawmen. A routine traffic stop turns into a wild shootout. Their brush with death was caught on tape. And Doug Ruckner has the explosive scene in tonight's Top Copy.
It started as a stop for expired plates in a college town northeast of Cincinnati. But what state troopers didn't know, the Suburban was a rolling arsenal. And you're about to see one of the fiercest shootouts ever captured on video. 22 seconds of hell on a cold Ohio highway. At first, the driver seems cooperative. But police say when they tried to search him off camera, the driver bolted back toward the vehicle, and then things explode out of control. The passenger escapes into a woods. The officers now try to at least stop the driver. With all the bullets flying, only one person gets a minor injury, but there's to be more shooting.
A short time later, a Wilmington police officer spotted that Chevy Suburban pulling into a parking lot. He pulled in behind the vehicle. The driver exited with a rifle, fired a number of rounds at the Wilmington police officer, and then also fled.
Police still haven't caught the Suburban driver or the passenger. As the manhunt continues, the highway patrol's reviewing this video. A patrol spokesman says the driver didn't appear at first to be armed, and agency policy forbids a trooper from shooting unless in a life-threatening situation.
Did the officer, specifically the trooper, act within our policy and procedure? That's something that we'll be taking a look at. But it's very easy for us to sit kind of in a 50-yard line in our nice warm homes or apartments and kind of second-guess those officers. Those officers are reacting based on training, and they have to work within certain parameters of what they are and not allowed to do.
Officers won't confirm media reports of a possible link between the incident and a white supremacist group.
Plates. When officers attempted to search the driver, he resisted, and his passenger, as you see here, opened fire. State and federal investigators still haven't released the names of the suspects.
The Supreme Court has expanded the rights of police officers who pull cars over for traffic stops. The justices ruled today that police have the right to order the passengers and the driver out of a car during a traffic stop. The vote was 7-2. The majority was concerned about the safety of police. The ruling came in a case from Maryland.
You could never second guess.
It just happened so quick, so it's really hard to say what if. You know, what if we kept them in the car? What if we ordered them out? It happened so quick, and that's usually what happens in shootouts.
Now that tape is going to become a training tape so officers can learn whatever they can from it. Bottom line, there is no routine stop.
Sally, the sergeant says sometimes it's a good idea to keep passengers inside the car, though. When is it a good idea to get them out?
We're told maybe an officer wants to get everyone out of a car when everyone has been drinking, for instance, or when they think everyone has been drinking. They'll put them in one spot so they can control them and watch them. That's one incident, but every incident is different. That's why officers say they're going to take every single stop in a different view.
Sally Taylor, thank you.
Turning to 7's because of that shootout in Wilmington over the weekend, I'm Eve Mueller with the very latest on the case. Seeing the incredible pictures tonight, new questions about police procedures. I'm Eve Mueller with that story ahead.
Feel lucky and thank God.
A helicopter pilot.
On a dramatic videotape, now News Center 7 has obtained a second tape.
The suspects broke free that time, too, during the second police stop. News Center 7's Vanessa Tyler joins us now with more on the unbelievable luck of these gunmen and the latest on the search. Vanessa.
Well, Jim, sure, these men may seem lucky getting away from armed officers not once but twice, both times shooting their way out. We have another piece of tape showing police getting shot at. This time, one gunman jumped out, firing. It happens so fast, we'll slow it down. This is a camera mounted inside a Wilmington police cruiser. Cops were crawling all over the place looking for two men who shot at state troopers just a half hour before. This officer spots the Suburban. The door opens, and it's clear the guy inside did not want to talk. Here, a half hour earlier, about a mile away, this is the first police stop, the first time they get away. The gunmen talk with officers before shooting. Again, this is the tape obtained by News Center 7 today. Less than half an hour after the first scene, a Wilmington police cruiser spots that light blue Suburban. And like in the first tape, the driver gets away again. Now that people see what these guys are capable of, they're scared of what they'll do next.
Once you've seen the tape of it, you know, and knowing that they had guns or they could kill somebody, you know, was more frightening.
Luckily, that officer was not hit, so police have two tapes showing the best of two gunmen in action. They still don't have the gunmen. They are somewhere free. Ohio State Police tell us they are close, but not close enough to have issued warrants or close enough to even officially identify the men seen on the tape. Cheryl?
The videotape of the Wilmington shootout clearly shows the officers had just seconds to make life or death decisions. Training for a confrontation like the one in...
Were involved in a shootout with police over the weekend. Here is the new video released today. Watch as a Wilmington police officer approaches a parking lot. Shots are fired. The officer's windshield is shattered, and the officer isn't hurt, but a passing driver is. He's okay, however. Now, this happened moments after a traffic stop involving a state highway patrol trooper. That incident was also caught on tape by a camera inside the cruiser. We've showed you these tapes yesterday. The suspect could not produce a driver's license, and after talking with the trooper and a Clinton County Sheriff's deputy, a shootout began. Both of the men got away, and both are on the loose tonight. Now, these pictures are making news broadcasts across the country, and reporter E. Mueller reviews the first ever tape released by the Highway Patrol.
You might have some questions about police work after seeing this tape, like why doesn't the state trooper on the left do more to stop the driver from getting away? Why doesn't he shoot out the tires? According to this Ohio Highway Patrol policy TV has obtained, officers are only allowed to use deadly force and only justified under two circumstances. Those are to defend themselves or someone else from serious injury or death. Under no circumstances can an officer shoot warning shots, and they're all trained to shoot to kill.
We would consider you, if you fire a weapon, that you're using deadly force.
Sergeant John Bourne of the Ohio Highway Patrol.
It's so difficult to try to judge whether or not from that video camera something could have been done differently because you're not there within the situation. The trooper does return fire. If, although you can't see it, he's in front of the vehicle returning fire on the passenger.
That's because the passenger has a weapon and is using it.
Those are the kind of split-second decisions that they make. When you watch the video, ask yourself, not do you want to stop the driver, but did the driver make some action that you believed he was threatening your life or someone else's life?
The answer appears to be no, because the driver is not armed. Now tonight, the hunt continues for those two suspects, despite some key tips and calls coming here into the Highway Patrol. Over 1,000 of you have called in the last 2 days alone about this case. And we are live at the Columbus Command Center. This is where the calls are coming in. Take a look at the number, 1-800-525-5555, if you have any other information you think will help authorities solve this case. One other note, 2 guns were found in that Suburban after those 2 Wilmington shootouts. One of them reportedly belonged to a man who was found dead along with his wife and child this summer in Arkansas. So, Dave, tonight, authorities very anxious to find those 2 men.
I can imagine. Thanks a lot, Eve, reporting live from East Columbus tonight. Incidentally, 10 TV got a tip that these men are in the Aryan Nation group and could have been on their way to a rally in Columbus on Sunday. But so far, the FBI won't confirm that. Andrew?
A police mission came to a crashing halt when a chopper plummeted to the ground. It's amazing.
The video isn't extremely clear that you may not be able to figure them out, but certainly if someone knows them, they'll give us a call.
Meantime, the Highway Patrol will not confirm if a car found abandoned in a Ross County, Ohio barn was the suspect's getaway car. The patrol also plans to look at 3-year-old hard copy broadcasts to see if they can identify a white supremacist featured on the program in the hope of identifying the fugitives.
The investigation...
Chinese leader Deng Xiaoping is dead. Tonight, the impact of Deng's life and death on China and the world. Plus, Mike Wallace with the only one-on-one interview Deng ever gave Western television. The U.S. Supreme Court hands anti-abortion groups a victory for increased protest rights. And more on that dramatic Ohio police video. Turns out the men who opened fire and escaped after police stopped their van for a routine check may be tied in with right-wing hate groups.
This is the CBS Evening News. With Dan Rather reporting from CBS News headquarters in New York.
It ended in a wild shootout. Who are the gunmen who got away? We'll have an NBC News in-depth investigation.
Hours today when they stopped vehicles for routine traffic offenses. The Supreme Court ruled police may order all passengers, not just the driver, to step out of the vehicle. The High Court said the, quote, minimal intrusion on the passenger's privacy is vastly outweighed by the safety needs of police. A dramatic case in point, the police video we showed you last night of peace officers in Ohio who stopped a van for a traffic offense and suddenly came under semi-automatic weapons fire. The suspects got away. But who are these men? Peter Van Sant has the follow-up.
Police in Wilmington, Ohio now believe these 2 men involved in this dramatic shootout last Saturday may be members of Aryan Nations, a white supremacist group that was holding a rally in the state. This afternoon, police released another videotape, recorded on a patrol car camera, of a second shooting that occurred minutes after the first. This bullet just missed an officer, but a man driving past the scene was slightly wounded in the shoulder. The suspect fired a number of rounds from a high-powered rifle at several police cars, shattering windshields. He then ran from the scene.
So you borrowed the vehicle?
The first shootout started when the driver refused to get in the squad car.
You don't have anything on you, you got nothing to worry about, right? No, but I don't want to be violated like this. All right, so then I'll arrest you for not having a driver's license, and then I'll search you, and then I'll put you in jail.
The driver ran, and the gun battle began. Remarkably, no one was hit. Police once again are asking the public to help identify the 2 men involved in the shootings. Both fled on foot. A house-to-house search uncovered nothing. Police say the 2 men are armed and considered extremely dangerous. Peter Van Sant, CBS News, New York.
A suspect...
News last night, what looked like a dramatic ending to a routine traffic stop caught on a police videotape. But there may be bigger implications to the incident that happened this past weekend in the town of Wilmington, Ohio. Sources are telling NBC News tonight the men who opened fire on police and got away, may be involved with violent hate groups. Our in-depth investigation now from NBC's Mike Betcher.
You borrowed the vehicle?
The drama began Saturday when Ohio state lawmen pulled over this truck with expired Washington state tags. On the side of the police car, off camera, the driver refused to be searched and ran while his passenger opened fire.
The police had no idea what they had stumbled into. Both men escaped. The officers were not hurt.
And if they're willing to do that to a law enforcement officer or officers, they're obviously willing to do that to anyone.
But NBC News has learned that police now believe the two in the shootout had been en route to a weekend neo-Nazi rally in Columbus, Ohio, and are wanted for questioning in connection with 3 murders. According to police sources, the men are members of an anti-government neo-Nazi group known as Aryan Nations. The murder trail goes back here to the Arkansas bayous and brutal murders of this family 1 year ago. The bodies of William Mueller, his wife Nancy, and their 8-year-old daughter Sarah were discovered bound. They had been dumped while still alive into the bayou and left to drown. Friends say that Mueller, a militia member who lived in this rural Arkansas home, had been threatening to turn in other militiamen by giving police incriminating details about their violent anti-government activities. Law enforcement sources tell NBC News that one of the men in the Ohio shootout is suspected of belonging to the same militia group as William Mueller and may have been the last person to see him alive. NBC News has also learned that law enforcement suspects that man has trained here with white supremacists at the so-called Elohim City compound in eastern Oklahoma. Oklahoma bombing suspect Timothy McVeigh is believed to have been in contact with the compound 2 weeks before the Murrah building was destroyed. Reverend Robert Millar is Elohim City's leader. He denies it is a haven for terrorists.
We are morally obliged to protect ourselves.
The nationwide search for the 2 men in the Ohio shootout has only intensified. And if they are committed neo-Nazis, it is another example of increased daring by organized domestic terrorists who seek to bring down our government. Mike Betcher, NBC News, Los Angeles.
Federal officials also tell NBC News tonight that they fear the 2 men are being hidden by hate group members, which could make it much more difficult for them to be located, of course.
The major
shootout, and that is when we begin this morning. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I'm Lisa Cooney.
And I'm Greg McKinney. A video camera in a patrol car captured the dramatic shooting last Saturday. Here now is the video of the first gunfire when police pulled over the blue Chevy Suburban for expired tags. Police and the gunman traded shots, but the suspects got away. Now, here's the new video. Moments after the first incident, a Wilmington police officer pulled up to chase the suspects and got a bullet in the windshield. The officer, though, wasn't hurt. Authorities now think the 2 suspects in the shootout were headed to a neo-Nazi rally in Columbus. Now, if you have any information...
Very few traffic stops ever get as crazy as the one in Wilmington this past Saturday. But every time a police officer approaches a vehicle, there is apprehension, if not fear. Lieutenant David Kuntz of the Springdale Police Department took us along tonight to get a sense of what it is like to approach a vehicle at night with no ID.
Pictures of the suspects, the fingerprints, and evidence they left are not enough for investigators to name them yet.
But federal and state investigators now want to question 2 Aryan Nations members, 39-year-old Jake Settle and 24-year-old Chevie Kehoe, for their possible involvement not only in this shootout, but in a triple murder.
Settle is the registered owner of the Chevy Suburban. And we've learned that investigators now believe it was headed to the neo-Nazi Aryan Nations rally held at the State House the day after the gun battle. The triple killing happened last year near Russellville, Arkansas. Gun dealer William Mueller, his wife Nancy, and their 8-year-old daughter Sarah were found bound with bags over their heads in a remote Arkansas bayou. Friends say Mueller, a member of the same militia group as Kehoe, had been threatening to turn in other militia members to police and tell of their violent anti-government activities. We've also learned that at the so-called Elohim City compound in Oklahoma, a separatist community, Kehoe trained with another group of white supremacists. Elohim City is where the Midwestern bank bandits spent time. Peter Langan and Mark Thomas. Thomas is the Aryan Nations leader from Pennsylvania, who now admits to plotting some of the 22 bank robberies the group pulled off. Oklahoma City bombing suspect Timothy McVeigh is believed to have been in contact with that compound 2 weeks before the bombing. All these developments give new hope to the murder victim's family.
Every time it just gives us more hope that they will catch the people that killed my sister.
Bombing suspect Timothy McVeigh was at just before the bombing. And there's more. Federal investigators are looking at a tape from the tabloid TV show Hard Copy. 3 years ago, Hard Copy did a story about white supremacist Chevie Kehoe. Is Kehoe the same guy who's on this tape? We don't know for sure, but the FBI does want to question him and another man, Jacob Myron Settle, about Saturday's shooting. The blue truck is registered to Settle. A relative of Chevie Kehoe's, whom we're not identifying, says he's not one of the two men caught on this tape.
Without a doubt, in my estimation, from what I see, it's Congress.
In the meantime, the manhunt spans from Spokane, Washington to the Miami Valley. Still, 4 days of searching have turned up nothing. Sean Wade, News Center 7 Daybreak Edition.
Investigators do say they have some tips in this case, but nothing yet has turned into a solid lead. The smell of natural gas prompts the evacuation.
Who are deadly serious, I think. And when you have people like that who also have access to weapons, it's quite serious. And I think it's a threat.
Eve Mueller, Eyewitness News.
Eve also tells us the Highway Patrol and the FBI will not confirm whether the men who shot at officers in Wilmington were on their way here to the State House for the Aryan Nation rally that took place this weekend. Meantime, though, they did get some tape from us that may help in their investigation. We're told they also took some tape from the program Hard Copy. Now, if you have any information of the suspects at all, call this number. It is 1-800-525-5555. We'll repeat that number for you a little later in the news.
Shootout in Wilmington spreads across the country. The story continues to take on a bizarre twist.
But if you have any information on these suspects, please call the Ohio State Patrol.
The gunman involved in the weekend police shootout in Wilmington, and as the search continues, more information is being learned about the suspects. News Center 7's Dan Minnick brings us up to date from the newsroom. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning, Ken. The investigation into the shootout in Wilmington is headed in new directions today. The State Highway Patrol is looking at a hard copy tape to try to identify a white supremacist the tabloid show featured 3 years ago. And NBC News is reporting that one of the men in the shootout might be linked to a murder and a militia group. Video of the gun battle last Saturday in Wilmington has been broadcast across the nation. The story continues to unfold and is starting to take some bizarre turns. NBC News reports that police now believe the two men involved in the shootout were on their way to an Aryan Nations rally in Columbus. The Ohio Aryans say they don't know the pair. Police also think one of the gunmen is a militia member. An Arkansas member of that militia and his family turned up dead last year. NBC News also reports that one of the gunmen on the Highway Patrol tape may have been the last person to see the Arkansas man alive. Of course, the search for the pair continues this morning. This is Dan Minnick live in the newsroom for Daybreak.
A follow-up now to Wednesday's story about that Ohio shootout captured on videotape. Today there are new details about the two suspects who are still at large. NBC's Mike Betcher now.
Ohio police and the FBI are still seeking the gunman who shot it out with an Ohio state trooper and a deputy sheriff last Saturday. And they have released more video of the gunman's confrontation with police. Here, as a police cruiser chases one suspect as he fled on foot, his windshield is struck by a bullet, a close call. NBC News has learned that detectives now believe the two suspects are members of a neo-Nazi organization called the Aryan Nations. Police believe the men were en route to a weekend neo-Nazi rally in Columbus, Ohio, when they were stopped by police. But NBC News has learned that investigators want to interrogate the two suspects about more than their shootout with Ohio lawmen. Investigators in Arkansas also want to question the men about the murders of 3 members of an Arkansas family a year ago.
We are still in touch with the Ohio authorities, and we're waiting to find out what else, if any other things they find.
The bodies of William Mueller, his wife Nancy, and 8-year-old daughter Sarah were found at the bottom of an Arkansas bayou. They had been bound and drowned alive. William Mueller, according to Arkansas police and militia sources, was a member of the same militia group as one of the suspected Ohio gunmen. Mueller, according to friends, had threatened to go to police with information about the illegal activities of some of the more extreme members of the group. Police have not publicly named the suspects, but the search for the gunman continues. Mike Betcher, NBC News, Los Angeles.
And finally now, a cab driver...
Hello and welcome. I'm Barry Noel.
And I'm Terry Murphy. You're watching Hard Copy for Thursday, February 20th.
It began as a gun battle between Ohio cops and a couple of bad guys. Now it's escalated into a nationwide manhunt suggesting ties to white supremacists, even a possible Oklahoma bombing connection. Doug Bruckner has tonight's top copy.
Their faces are flashing on TV screens across the country. The crazed criminals who shot their way out of a routine traffic stop by Ohio cops and then fired on another officer a few miles down the road. But is this their first appearance on national TV? Is the lawless lunatic you see here the same white supremacist who spewed his hate to hard copy 4 years ago?
I do hate homosexuals. And to be honest with you, probably Jews are probably, I despise them. I really do.
Ohio police were anxious to get hold of our televised interview with Chevie Kehoe and another white supremacist profiled in our piece named Jake Settle. Now, both of these radical racists are reportedly wanted for questioning in connection with the Ohio shootouts. Court documents reportedly confirm that the 1978 Chevy Suburban police pulled over is registered to Settle. Earlier reports indicated the truck belonged to this man, Sean Haynes, a neo-Nazi skinhead from Washington State.
He impressed me as being an intelligent young man that had leadership possibilities.
White Aryan resistance leader Tom Metzger says Sean Haynes called him several times for advice and assistance.
We talked simply that we were white separatists and, you know, we need to seal the border and get these Mexicans out of here and stop the invasion and, you know, generalities that are affecting all white working people.
A key question, what was Settle's truck with expired Washington plates doing in Ohio? Settle and Kehoe were reportedly staying at a campground near Cincinnati. We're told they checked out on Monday, 2 days after the shootout with the cops and 1 day after a KKK rally in Columbus, Ohio.
I'm proud to be here today with my Aryan brothers and my fellow Klansmen.
What makes these characters and their possible connections to this case creepy is a whole series of investigations in several states. Sean Haynes was arrested in South Dakota a few months ago in a 1978 Chevy Suburban. Kehoe is wanted for questioning in the murder of an Arkansas gun dealer. And the FBI is reportedly looking into that incident and others in connection with the conspiracy to bomb the federal building in Oklahoma City 2 years ago. One thing's clear, these two men shot to the top of the FBI's list of America's most wanted.
Ironically, just as this videotaped shootout was released, the Supreme Court ruled that cops can legally force drivers and passengers from their cars, even if they are not suspected of a crime.
In Colorado tonight, prosecutors refused to rule out JonBenet Ramsey's parents as suspects in her murder. And now they are taking a closer look at the death of John Ramsey's other daughter. Jody Baskerville's in Boulder with an update. Jody?
Boulder police want to know more about the life and death of John Ramsey's oldest daughter, Elizabeth. She was killed in a car accident in 1992, and now investigators believe the autopsy report may provide a possible break in the case. The 1992 autopsy report on Elizabeth Ramsey, who died in a car crash in Chicago, is now officially part of the investigation into the murder of little JonBenet.
Boulder police did request and have received the 1992 autopsy report of the death of Elizabeth Ramsey. This report is now part of the Boulder Police investigative file, so it would be inappropriate for me to discuss this item further.
During today's media briefing, police would not reveal why they requested the autopsy report.
What I can assure you that we're trying to do is sort through a mountain of information to try to figure out what exactly is relevant and what isn't relevant.
But now, in another bizarre twist, a Denver radio station is asking whether Elizabeth Ramsey's autopsy could reveal that she was a victim of prior abuse. Can you confirm reports that autopsy reports show that Elizabeth Ramsey was the victim of prior abuse?
As you are aware, last week Friday there was a partial release of the autopsy report. Dr. John Meyer, the Boulder County coroner, has not attempted to interpret the information that was partially released, so it would be inappropriate for me to try to do that.
Do you have any guesstimate as to how long it's going to be before our suspect's named? Are we talking months here?
We are taking the time we need to get this done right.
Because the Ramseys have not been ruled out as suspects,
Cops want to keep a tight lid on what was found inside their home after the murder.
Now our nightly race through the news stories from the furor over